There is a strange silence that lingers in the background of human effort, a silence that does not echo our groans, our midnight struggles, our unspoken exhaustion. It is the silence of the world itself, indifference so vast and so steady that it almost feels like a law of nature. The world does not tilt in sympathy when you labor endlessly, nor does it soften because you sacrificed sleep, tears, or years of your life in pursuit of something. The truth, as sharp as it is unyielding, is this: the world does not care how hard you have worked, it cares only about what you have brought into existence, about what remains visible, tangible, measurable. The result. This recognition is not meant to wound, but to awaken, for it reveals a hidden structure within life itself. Consider the stars. They burn for billions of years, consuming themselves with unimaginable intensity. Yet to us, their brilliance is the only proof of that sacrifice. We do not see their pain, their collapse, or their violent fusion. We see only the light that travels across distances too vast for the human mind to measure. In the same way, the world is illuminated not by our efforts, but by the light of our results. What shines is what survives. It is tempting, in the tenderness of our humanity, to imagine that effort alone is noble enough to earn recognition. We are drawn to the idea that sincerity, persistence, and honest struggle should be enough to win acknowledgement. And perhaps, within the intimacy of personal relationships, that is sometimes true. A parent sees the sleepless nights behind a child's success. A friend may value the unseen sacrifices you made to stand beside them. But the world at large, the vast machinery of society, economy, and history rarely grants such tenderness. It is more like the ocean. It does not notice the swimmer's fatigue, only whether they reach the shore. There is both cruelty and clarity in this. Cruelty, because it means our invisible nights of labor may vanish unrecognized. Clarity, because it teaches us that life is not built upon how much energy we expend, but upon what remains when the energy has been spent. Imagine a sculptor chiseling marble for decades without ever finishing a statue. History does not remember the chisel marks. It remembers the completed form that stands in a museum or a plaza, testifying that the effort transformed into something enduring. Effort without transformation is like rain falling into sand. It disappears before anyone can drink from it. Yet to acknowledge this truth is not to diminish the dignity of effort. Effort is the hidden architecture, the scaffolding behind the cathedral. Without it, no result can be born. But the cathedral is what the world beholds, not the scaffolding that was torn down once the walls stood firm. There is a haunting honesty in that, for it forces us to ask ourselves, are we laboring endlessly upon scaffolds, or are we building something that will stand once our labor is gone? When we say, the world does not care about your struggle, only your results, it is easy to mistake this as cold pragmatism, a rejection of compassion. But if we look deeper, it is not so much rejection as revelation. The world reflects the rhythm of natural law. A tree is not judged by how many roots it sends beneath the soil. Those remain unseen. It is judged by whether it bears fruit, whether the shadow of its branches provides shelter, whether the air is enriched by its leaves. The roots matter, they are life itself, but they are not what the passerby perceives. The passerby sees the fruit or its absence, and so too does the world measure us. Not by the intensity of our invisible roots of struggle, but by the fruit that emerges into daylight. This reality can feel harsh when we dwell within the rawness of our efforts. How often have we whispered to ourselves in frustration, if only they knew how hard I tried. We want to believe that our trying should weigh as much as our succeeding, but reality is like an impartial witness. It does not tilt the scales. It acknowledges only what arrives, what crystallizes, what is made manifest. To live in denial of this is to become bitter. To accept it is to be liberated into a new form of clarity. For if the world cares only for results, then we are invited to redirect our energy. No longer do we exhaust ourselves in the comfort of effort alone, mistaking struggle for accomplishment. Instead, we are pressed to ask, what is the outcome I am birthing? What remains when my efforts vanish? This shift does not belittle our humanity, it sharpens it. It does not deny the worth of effort. It calls us to transform effort into something that can endure beyond our breath. There is also an almost cosmic justice in this perspective, for results, whether grand or small, do not discriminate based on background, suffering, or circumstance. They simply exist. A poem written in secret is a result. A small kindness given to a stranger is a result. A bridge built, a song composed, a problem solved. These remain as echoes in the world, regardless of the unseen toil that made them possible. It is not that the world disrespects effort. It is that effort, when it does not coalesce into form, vanishes like smoke. Results are the crystallization of our struggle into something that resists disappearance. To understand this is to see the contours of a greater law. The universe is not sentimental. It is not. At the heart of the statement, the world does not care how hard you tried. It only cares about what you achieved, lies a paradox both painful and clarifying. We are told from childhood that effort matters, that striving itself is noble, that the sweat of the brow and the tireless chase are virtues in their own right. Yet, as we grow and step into the larger currents of society, we realize that effort alone does not write the story others read about us. The world is not privy to our private battles in the dark, our silent sacrifices, the nights of doubt, or the trembling prayers we whisper to ourselves. What the world reads is the line we leave on the sand, the outcome, the tangible footprint, the harvest we present. The soil does not care if your hands bled as you tilled it. It only reveals where the crops grew or failed. This is not to diminish effort, it is to highlight its invisibility to others. In the realm of existence, there is a quiet truth. Labor is the fire that consumes itself, while results are the smoke that rises and touches the sky. People see only the smoke. They do not know how fiercely the fire burned to create it. The core theme here is the disconnect between inner struggle and outer recognition, between what we experience and what others value. In this tension, many hearts break because they mistake being busy for being impactful, or they believe sincerity alone can guarantee acknowledgement. The universe operates differently. It moves by results, outcomes, and manifestations. Another pillar beneath this truth is the impartiality of the world. The earth spins, regardless of your toil. The stars burn whether or not you stayed awake in despair. The market does not pause to reward you for trying, it reacts only to what you bring to it. To some, this sounds cruel, like a universe without empathy, but seen from another angle, it is a law of clarity, an equation that applies equally to all. It reminds us that existence itself is governed by patterns that do not bend to our feelings, but respond to the energy we transform into results. A tree does not grow by announcing its struggle. It grows by showing its fruit. Embedded in this law is a quiet invitation. If the world sees only results, then let results be the translation of your effort, the bridge between your hidden battles and society's gaze. Results are not the enemy of struggle. They are its language, the only dialect the world truly reads. When framed this way, the harshness softens, for we see that the indifference of the world is not malice but neutrality. The sea does not care how bravely you swim. It only carries those who find the current that leads to shore. This neutrality is a kind of cosmic fairness, even if it wounds our desire for recognition of struggle itself. Yet there is another layer, the illusion we carry about effort as inherently noble. Many cling to the belief that trying hard earns automatic validation, as though the act of striving itself carves meaning into the world. But the truth whispers otherwise. Effort without direction is a candle burning in the wind, its light swallowed before anyone can notice. It is not the intensity of labor alone that matters, but its alignment with purpose, its effectiveness in touching reality. The cosmos mirrors back only what we manifest. It cannot reflect the struggles that dissolve before reaching form. This gives rise to a deeper concept, transformation. To live in this world, we must learn the alchemy of turning invisible pain into visible creation. It is not enough to be exhausted. One must be fruitful. It is not enough to walk endlessly. One must arrive somewhere. The laws of nature teach us this constantly. Rain is not measured by how heavily the clouds labor, but by how much water touched the earth. Seeds are not judged by how desperately they wish to sprout, but by whether green shoots broke through the soil. The measure of life is not hidden effort, but visible becoming. And so we return to the essence of the statement. The world's indifference to effort is not cruelty, but a mirror of existence itself. Life is structured upon outcomes, and while humans feel the pang of unacknowledged labor, the fabric of reality cannot bend to honor invisible sweat. What it can honor, what it always honors, is the translation of inner striving into outer form. To accept this is to align ourselves with the rhythm of the universe, to cease demanding sympathy from an indifferent cosmos, and instead, learn to converse in its true language. Results. This alignment does not erase the dignity of effort, it reframes it. Effort becomes the seed, and results the bloom. Both matter, but one is hidden underground, while the other turns to the sun. Without the seed, there can be no flower, but there are truths that words cannot pierce unless they wear the robes of story. for the mind often resists raw philosophy, but the heart softens when meaning is hidden inside parables, metaphors, and allegories. The idea that the world does not care how hard you have tried, but only what you have achieved, may feel like a blunt blade. But when seen through symbolic narratives, its edge gleams not as cruelty, but as inevitability. Imagine a sculptor in a forgotten village. For decades, he carves silently in his workshop. His hands grow rough, his back bent, his nights consumed by the rhythm of hammer on stone. He tells himself that the world must someday honor such devotion. Yet when he dies, most of his unfinished statues crumble into dust, their forms too vague to capture attention. Only one piece, completed and polished, is discovered years later and placed in the village square. The villagers do not recount the hours of his sweat or the countless rocks that broke under his chisel. They admire the statue that remains, the one that speaks without explanation. His effort, however noble, was invisible until it birthed something the world could see. The result became his legacy. The struggle dissolved into silence. The story is not meant to mock his labor, but to reveal a law of manifestation. Effort is the shadow, result is the light. The shadow without light cannot be seen, but light without shadow still exists. To demand that the world honor shadows is to demand that it see what by nature is unseen. Consider also the parable of two travelers, lost in a desert. One walks endlessly in circles, burning with determination, whispering to himself that his effort alone proves his worth. The other pauses, studies the stars, and finds the faint path of a caravan trail. Though he walks fewer steps, he emerges at the oasis, greeted with water and shade. The first, despite his heroic effort, collapses beneath the sun, unseen and unremembered. The desert does not weep for his struggle. It only acknowledges the one who found the way out. The lesson here is stark. Direction outweighs exertion, and results are the markers by which existence itself records survival. There is also the ancient myth of Sisyphus, condemned to roll his boulder up the mountain only to watch it fall back again. His endless toil is effort divorced from result, a laboring without fruit. In his punishment, the gods mock not his weakness, but his futility. What makes his suffering eternal is not the weight of the stone, but the absence of outcome. Had the stone stayed at the top even once, his story would transform from tragedy into triumph. Thus, even in mythology, the truth echoes. It is not the sweat that matters, but what remains after the sweat dries. We might even look to the stars for a deeper metaphor. Countless stars are born in silence, their fires hidden by vast distances. They burn with unimaginable energy, yet remain unseen until their light reaches another world. It is not the effort of the star that we... To speak of philosophy is one thing, to breathe it into daily life is another. If the truth is that effort without result disappears into silence, then the question becomes, how do we live with this knowledge without despair? How do we hold both, the dignity of effort and the necessity of outcome in one hand, without letting either slip away? First, we must confront illusions we are taught early in life. We are told, as long as you try your best, it's enough. The phrase comforts children, and perhaps it should, but adulthood demands harsher honesty. Trying is not enough if it never crosses into becoming. The world cannot drink from empty wells, no matter how hard one has dug. This is not cruelty, it is structure. A seed that struggles endlessly in the soil but never breaks the surface cannot nourish anyone, even though it fought in darkness. Take the workplace as an example. You may stay late every night, pouring energy into endless tasks. Yet, if those tasks do not lead to measurable improvement, they dissolve in the company's eyes. The paycheck, the promotion, the recognition, they flow not from the hours spent, but from the outcomes those hours yield. To work hard but without alignment is to row fiercely in circles, while another, with fewer strokes but truer direction, crosses the shore. Or think of relationships. Someone may insist, "I've tried so hard to love you. Isn't that enough?" But love cannot be measured in the silent suffering of one's heart alone. If that love does not blossom into gestures, into presence, into warmth that the other can feel, then the effort remains invisible. Relationships, too, live not by invisible intention, but by visible nourishment. To claim effort without fruit is like offering water from an empty cup. Even in the pursuit of dreams, the pattern remains. Many labor endlessly at projects, convinced that perseverance itself will guarantee recognition. Yet there is a peculiar silence that surrounds this truth. The world does not care how hard you have tried. It cares only for what has been born from your hands, your mind, your soul. To many, This silence feels cold, like the indifference of the night sky that watches us without bending to our cries. Yet within that silence lies a strange gift, the chance to step beyond illusion and see life not as we wish it to be, but as it is. Effort is noble, sweat has dignity, tears have meaning, but they are not currency the world trades in. The world's economy is results. It is the fruit, not the root, the flower, not the unseen labor in the soil. You may toil for decades in darkness, but unless that seed breaks the surface and grows toward the light, no passerby will ever know it's lived. Yet this truth, though sharp, does not need to cut us into despair. Instead, it can sharpen us into clarity. For if the world sees only results, then we must learn to shape our labor into visible offerings. The hidden struggle, the silent endurance, the endless trials, they are not wasted, for they are the forge where character is made. But character alone, if it never manifests in action, risks being locked away like treasure in a sealed chest. To live transformed is to accept the paradox. Cherish your effort as sacred, but also demand of yourself that it give birth to something real. Write the book, even if imperfect. Launch the project, even if fragile. Speak the words of love, even if awkward. Do not let your labor vanish into silence, because silence does not feed the world. The world is neither cruel nor kind. In this matter, it is simply impartial. A mountain does not move because you cry at its base. It moves only when you strike it, again and again, until the stone cracks. The world is the same. It does not bow to suffering. It bends only to creation. But here is the deeper call. Do not resent the world's indifference. Learn from it.